What's good, everybody?
up,
Welcome
everybody?
back to AOE. Now, I know we've been away for a while, 2 months to be exact, but we did watch Stranger Things Season 5. We're going to talk about the review of Season 5 as a total series. We're also going to talk about Conformity Gate.
What? Let's
get
go.
Area of entertainment.
All right, guys, welcome back. We're talking Stranger Things Season 5 and Stranger Things as a series whole. We're going to give you our review, but let's get into it.
All right.
So Season 5, the last episode.
It picks up right after, literally right after.
Yeah. We're not going to go through the whole episode because it is a 3 to 2 hour movie, almost like a movie. So
yeah, it's like 2 hours long, but
the episode pretty much, they defeat Vecna, they defeat the Mind Flayer.
Yeah.
We find out all this other stuff. There's a lot of plot holes in this episode that a lot of people and fans were complaining about.
Yeah.
Up to the point where they started making up their own theories about Conformity Gate and there being an actual hidden episode. Let's give our thoughts first.
So I think that the whole episode was pretty good. I like kind of the ending and like the epilogue that it gave, but I do understand and I do see when you watch it, you're like, oh, like what? Like it's kind of confusing in some parts, and
right.
There's parts that are kind of make you really think. Overall, I think the Duffer Brothers, I think they were kind of shooting for playing it safe.
Yeah,
then
they definitely were.
Then actually, because the way how they were saying is oh, this is kind of this is gonna be the craziest episode, and all that.
Right, they were hyping it up.
Yeah, they were hyping it up. So a lot of people were thinking oh, someone's gonna die or something crazy is gonna happen. But I think they were just shooting to play it safe and kind of just make
right.
it they were kind of explaining oh, we couldn't do this because these people of the fans will get mad, and we can't do this because then other people will get mad. So I think that's just all it was.
Yeah, they were trying to make everybody happy, but at the end of the day, they made nobody happy.
Yeah.
By trying to make everybody happy, nobody became happy because the fans all on the internet were complaining about the episode and the way the season ended. It didn't tie anything up. It left more loose ends than anything.
Yeah.
And it was a bummer for the season finale because you hype everything up for 5 seasons straight.
Yeah.
And then you hype up the finale to be the grand finale, grand, this is a send-off.
Yeah.
And you can tell that they, like you said, they were playing it safe, to save the franchise. They definitely didn't want to go too crazy.
That too, I think I just the whole thing of them announcing we have spin-off shows that are happening and all that. So I think that they were trying to Stranger Things is not the end, it's just the beginning, blah blah and all that, but technically it is the end.
Yeah. For the original.
Yeah, for the original. So it's make a good kind of ending to it and stuff. But I think they were kind of being oh, we have spin-offs though, so all that. And also I just feel with the fans too, it's a lot of the fans kind of grew up with Stranger Things, where it's
it was 5 seasons, but it wasn't 5 years. It was almost 10 years.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is that people they're in middle school and then they graduated and they're still watching Stranger Things and stuff. So I feel that it kind of ties into they don't want to let it go. So that's why they kind of were mad at the ending and kind of making up the whole Conformity Gate thing and all that.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that later.
Yeah, but to the point,
But to the point,
it doesn't really matter about spoilers. It's been 2 months. If you haven't watched it yet, you're failing. If you're not a fan of Stranger Things, if you haven't watched it yet. But at the end, they defeat Vecna, they defeat the Mind Flayer.
Yeah.
And spoiler for again, 11 dies or leaves,
quote unquote, because the way how the Duffer Brothers kind of explain it is that you can believe what you want to believe.
Yeah. So they left it open.
So yeah, they left it open to where to either she's dead or alive. The season overall, I feel it's kind of in the middle in the rating system.
So let's get into the rating system. And the AOE scale, 1 to 10. What do you give it? The whole series in total from 1 to 5.
Oh, the whole series?
The series. Because
I think
we've given our review over the last couple months about season 5 and when they dropped the pieces off. So the whole series as a whole, I'd say would be the better option.
I think the whole series as a whole is a 9 to a 10, but I'm gonna say maybe a 9 because there's moments. Okay, I'm gonna say 9, but it's going to a 10 because I remember there's a lot of highs. Like season 1 I think was a high, season 2 also a high, and season 4 all of them. But the one thing that is not making it a 10 is that kind of there's moments that I remember that are kind of what yeah, there's little moments and scenes in the entire show that kind of make you that's kind of weird. So that kind of drops a little bit, but 9 is still a good rating as a show.
9 is a good rating. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's other shows that are better, but there's good reason behind it. My personal review on it, I think I'll give it a 9 as well. there was seasons 1, 3, and 4 were really good. 2 and 5 were the downfalls, I'd say. You know, like they brought a lot of characteristics or some scenes from season 2 into 5, which kind of like the whole Cali scene.
Yeah, it's,
you know, like it was kind of like brought the whole show down.
Yeah, like the only reason why they brought Cali back, I feel like, is to make the Lost Sister episode actually meaningful in season 2.
But they should have just ignored it.
Yeah, that too, because it's like if you really think of it, it's like that one episode right in season 2, that was like the worst episode of Stranger Things, and I think it's just because it just took us out of Hawkins and like the main story, and just the whole episode's like a side quest on 11 and figuring that out. Which
the main character is doing a side quest and not the main
thing. And then they just brought her back in season 5 just to like kind of like connect and be like, oh, like she's important now, like you know, like she's doing that. But in season 5, like technically, like she didn't really do nothing.
No, she was just a pawn.
Yeah, exactly. That's like one thing that's kind of like story wise, it's kind of drops the rating a little bit. But also on top of that, there's other stuff too that are kind of weird.
Overall, Stranger Things as a series is a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, on the AOE
which is
rating.
Amazing.
Yeah,
it's not great. It's not masterpiece. It's amazing.
Yeah. So
the AOE 9 out of 10. Amazing. So it is a good show. Definitely, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. And let's talk Conformity Gate.
First things first. Conformity Gate, I think, is the dumbest thing that the fans
I wouldn't say it's the dumbest thing because hold on, let me say it.
It is the dumbest thing
because you said the dumbest thing. But as fans of the show, you should be happy that your fan base doesn't want to let it go.
True, but like I think it's just the dumbest thing because it's like, guys, like we have to learn to just let it go. Like,
that's true, but also, you know, we've been burned. A lot of fans of series, and you know, Game of Thrones is a prime example.
True.
I don't think you've seen it.
Yeah,
but
still,
the season finale.
I heard about the season finale.
Right, so it was a bad season that ruined a show.
Yeah,
and people are like, you can't do that with this show because it's beloved by a lot of, you know, like you said, kids who grew up with it, and like, you know, they're gonna have opinions on it. There's so many theories out there that they could have gone with that, you know. Where the hell were the Demogorgons? The main baddie of season 1 that got everybody hooked was the Demogorgon.
Yeah, true.
So where the hell were they at the last fight?
I think, but that kind of goes into the whole thing. And no offense to the Duffer Brothers, but it's like, I think that's just, like, I don't want to say it, but it's kind of bad writing. Like,
yeah, and it's almost rushed.
In a sense, because the Duffer Brothers, they just explained that, they just wanted the fight just to be mainly about Vecna and 11 and the big mind flare, and they didn't want, like, the Demogorgons or the Demo Dogs to be evolved because it would have messed up the whole thing. But that's just like a long answer for just we just forgot to write them in, and like I said, no offense, but it's just bad writing in that sense.
Right.
But I do understand the fact that's like, like if you have, like, I'm gonna bring in like Star Wars, the characters are fighting Darth Vader, like the biggest threat in the entire like franchise, but then like before they fight Darth Vader, they have to fight like a character that no one really cares about, and it's like, why would we care about this fight when we have a big fight that's coming up? So like it's kind of like
also
that.
Like, let's take the Star Wars, like you just said, you know. The big bad is Vader.
Yeah.
But you got to fight the stormtroopers before you get to him.
True, but like...
So it's like, you can't forget that there's an army there.
True.
And you hype up all these beasts and, you know... And even in season 5, when Will get his powers, Vecna sends like 5 Demogorgons.
Yeah.
Where the fuck are those 5 guys?
I think... Yeah, that's
like,
true.
It would have been cool if they explained like, okay, you know, Vecna's plan is to send the Demogorgons to fight the army. And then they're over there fighting the army guys. That way they're being handled over there. So then you can explain like, okay, this is the perfect time to go attack Vecna because his guards are gone.
That is true. Like, cause like after like the whole thing with like Dr. K, it's like, where did she like go? But just bad writing. They didn't understand what to do, so they kind of wrote it off in like a separate thing. And yeah, it would have been tough to like maybe Vecna figured out that, oh shoot, like the army is like doing something. He sends he sends like the Demogorgons, and then it's like they're focused on trying to like get them, and then they come sneak in.
That'd be a good one to do.
Or the thing that I think about when I think of like kind of the whole Demogorgon thing is that maybe like all the Demogorgons are not in Dimension X. All of them are in like the Upside Down. So like they can't reach like Dimension X because it's in the sky, but all of them are just in the Upside Down. Just like hunting.
That's tough to say because when L sent one or Henry to the
he
X,
saw the Demogorgon. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is that there's a lot of plot holes in this season, so it's like, and this episode.
It don't make any sense. And then let's talk about the epilogue.
I think the epilogue is really good.
It was good, but
because
for me, it didn't make sense because like they didn't explain like Nancy. She killed like 30 fucking army guys. She ain't have to go to jail.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Hopper too.
Hopper
and also Hopper became
guys.
the sheriff after. I think there's just like overall like the epilogue of just like the ending where it's like, hey, like it just like has a happy ending for everybody. Where it's kind of like, hey, like, you know, we got Hopper and Joyce, like they've been kind of like a relationship since like season 3.
Yeah.
No, actually, no. Even like maybe
I think season 2 they started having a relationship.
I think in season 2, yeah, that's when they started to kind of like have like a relationship, and then it kept going, and then at the end, it's like, oh shoot, Hopper wants to marry Joyce, and then they want to be together.
Then they want to move.
And they want to move to Florida, and then also we have Nancy, Jonathan, Robin, and Steve. They want to do their own things. Like Steve is doing his thing with baseball, and like Robin's doing her thing, and you know that whole thing of like the original group of teens are now like having adults, and then
what they're up to and stuff. So then we get to the original kids,
and then the I think the best one is with the kids where Mike, Lucas, Dustin, Will, and even Max, they're playing D&D, and like I like that ending because it's like it takes us all the way.
You knew that it was gonna happen. Like they gotta end it.
Yeah, it takes us all the way back to season 1, where like it's the first episode where it started with them playing D&D. Now it ends with them playing D&D, and me, I always say like that's like I feel like that's like the right way they should do it, especially when Mike kind of like explains the ending because they're playing D&D, and then that's when
his theory.
Yeah, and that's when Max kind of like tells him like, oh, I thought you were like a storyteller, blah blah, because like he kind of says like, oh yeah, like, you know, like the ending of this story, because they're playing D&D, they're like, oh, like all you guys have a happy ending, but she's like, oh, I thought you were a storyteller. And the way how Mike explains that, okay, you know what, I'll explain to you guys. So then he says to Lucas and Max how like the night in the Zoomer, you guys go off and live together and have a happy life, and then it shows them in the movie theater being together, how like they kind of like stood together. And then you got Dustin where he's a bard, and it's like he's saying, oh, like the bard, you crave knowledge, so you go to the library and study and like all that, and it shows him in college, but he still makes time to have adventures, and by doing so it's like, oh, Dustin hangs out with Steve, and maybe he hangs out with like everybody else, maybe spin-offs too.
It kind of sets up the spin-offs if
they
do
that
want
too.
To do a spin-off.
And then with Will, it's like, oh, with Will the Wise, you want to venture out and do your own thing and kind of like experiment. And then
that was kind of a weak one because they just show him in a bar.
Yeah, but like it's supposed to be like a quote unquote, like it's supposed to be like a gay bar, and then Will kind of has like a boyfriend, and then it's like kind of a whole thing. And then the last one is Will is like, oh, what about the storyteller? And like the storyteller, he said, like Mike, he's like, oh, he makes stories, he continues, he tells these stories, and I think that he becomes like a D&D story writer or even like an author.
Well, that's why they showed the book.
And then that's why at the end it shows Stranger Things. And in my mind, I think that he created the D&D campaign and he called it Stranger Things. And then it's like his adventure with all of his friends, and it's like everything like that. And then that's when he kind of tells everyone like, oh, I have a theory that the mage AK-11 is still alive. That's also another plot hole because it's kind of like we don't know, but that's kind of the whole thing.
Yeah, they leave it up to the fans. The whole thing at the end is like, you know, Mike tells them the story, and then, you know, he says you can believe it or not.
Yeah, exactly.
And then everybody says, you know, I believe, and that's kind of like Mike telling the fans.
Yeah, do you believe?
Do you believe? And it's up to you to believe that she's alive still.
Exactly.
But it doesn't make sense for the simple fact that the whole thing was Elle and Mike relationship.
Yeah.
And you telling me that she's gonna leave and just drop all that for no reason?
You know what I mean? Yeah, like a crazy thing that I think about is like I wish that they would have did like a scene like at the very end where like the scene where it shows Mike typing on the typewriter, showing like his future on how like he's a writer and stuff. It would have been tough at the very end where like he's typing and then 11 would come behind him and it's like he found her. Yeah. And then it would have been like, oh shoot, and then that's it. Would have ended. So now it actually shows like, oh, they actually did. He was right, and he actually found her
because she did go. If let's say his theory is correct, she did go to, you know, a distant country and kind of live her life away from everybody. What's to say that, you know, Mike didn't go? Like
that too.
It just doesn't make sense that,
or even like
they dropped the whole relationship like that.
Exactly.
Like there's no like really no motivation for Elle to kind of throw everything out, except for like making sure that he's safe from the military.
That too, but like still though, it's like it was just weird.
Yeah.
But and the whole conformity gate thing, I feel like like it does make sense in some calibers because obviously it's like, oh, there's plot holes here and there that show like maybe they are in like a Matrix type of like state.
And to be fair, the conformity gate theories made sense.
Yeah, it made sense
because like the whole thing about Vecna being a mind controlling demon, like Freddy Krueger, he can conform his
like the world that they're living and stuff. But I just knew that from the but me personally, I didn't believe it because it's just like we just have to let it go. So it's kind of like, hey, like guys, like all of us are fans. Even I'm a fan, but it's like we have to let it go. And I understood, and I saw kind of the ending. Yeah, it was kind of like iffy, but I kind of understood. So
it was
the
a
epilogue,
mid ending.
It was mid, but I understood the epilogue. I was like, yo, it was an all right ending. And a lot of my friends said like, oh no, it was trash, bro. Like I believe in conformity gate, which I'm like, yeah, bro, but like I don't think that's gonna happen. No. And it didn't happen.
They ended it.
Yeah, it didn't happen. But yeah,
you could tell the Duffer Brothers were like done with Stranger Things. And they want to work on other projects. That's where they're like, listen, let's wrap this up as quickly and painless as possible.
Yeah, true.
Because they had a bunch of different ways to end it.
Yeah.
And a lot, to be fair, a lot of other ways they could have ended it could have been better.
Yeah, we're better.
But they wanted to like rush it.
Yeah.
Because they were like, I personally think that they were just tired of it.
and another two more things too is like they like were like nonstop, like they always were trying to like have people on their seat with like the deaths where it's like, oh, like is Steve gonna die, is 11 gonna die, is Hopper gonna die, is Callie gonna die? Like basically this whole episode is just they're trying to make people on the edge of their seats, like biting their like nails,
like
kind of like
Steve.
like kind of like, oh my god, like who's gonna die next, because they hyped that up. They're like, someone's gonna die, blah blah, but no one died. Like it wasn't like no one important died.
The last important person was Billy.
Yeah, like,
and then the three bodies that Vecna killed in season 4.
Exactly. And like you can't say
that Papa's probably the biggest one,
and you can't say 11 died because like it's only like a what if, like it's like, oh, she might be dead or she might be alive, so you can't really say that's like a main death. So I feel like that they should have at least killed like one important character to kind of show like the stakes and kind of be like, damn, like obviously I don't think Steve should have died because I feel like that his death has been like hyped up since season like 4.
Well, he wasn't supposed
to.
Actually,
back in season 1 he was supposed to die. But so I feel like that throughout all these years there's no way that they're gonna kill him off, especially because like in season 4, they really did hype it up to the point where like, oh yeah, he's gonna drown in the lake, he's gonna get choked by the bats, he's gonna die. And then this season, it's like he falls and Jonathan catches him, and I thought that moment was sick. But I knew he wasn't gonna die. It would have been crazy if like Nancy or Mike died or like someone like kind of important.
I feel like one of the original kids, if they would have died, it would have been an impactful death.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what I'm saying. It would have been like
I think if Mike died, then there's a reason why 11 can leave.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then Will can move on and like do that stuff.
So if Mike died, that would have been the big change. That would have been a big turning point. Then it makes sense why she didn't come back. Why Will can leave, do his own thing, and why everybody can, do their own thing. Other than that, I mean, we can't do nothing about it.
Speaking on the Mike thing, it would have been tough if it was like, oh, like he died, but then like they find like his like journal that like he wrote stories, and he's like, hey guys, like, and he wrote, and it
gave everybody a note,
and he gave everybody a note, kind of like how Hopper left a note for Elle saying like, oh, like I wish I could turn back the clock.
How Max left notes,
or how Max left, like it would have been like a crazy epilogue where like maybe 11 found it, and then he told her like, hey, like you should move on, blah blah blah, like you don't, like kind of like how at the end Hopper was talking to Mike about 11, you have to move on, you can't, like you have to go on that path where like you have to just move on, you can't just stay in one spot. And also last thing real quick, my boy Eddie Munson, he didn't come back, but I wish he came back. And
everybody, like, because he's a good character. That's the same thing with Bob.
Yeah, Bob was a good character too.
Like,
but like I feel like Eddie like had like the most kind of like thing to come back, because I had this theory where it's like, yo, like
I think I know what theory you're talking about, and I think that even the Duffer Brothers said is like this isn't a mystical world, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, we have mystical things like the Upside Down, but it's not like reviving the dead kind of thing.
Yeah, but like
not fantasy.
But 11 did it with Max in season 4 at the end.
But she didn't die.
Yeah, she did. She literally said that her heart stopped for like over like a minute or something like that, and 11 brought her back, and then literally, and look at her now. And yeah, her mind was stuck in Vecna's mind, but still though, that could have happened with Vecna and Eddie, where it's like he would have been like, I'm gonna bring you back because I'm weak right now.
Yeah.
Because literally at the end of season 4, Vecna was weak.
Yeah, he could have used them.
And he could have used them as like kind of like a general, and then it would have been kind of like a new villain that they're trying to like, oh, like who is this new person? And then, oh shoot, it's Eddie. And then like Vecna comes in with his new design, he's all strong, and then now it's like them side by side. But I had a whole theory where it was kind of like when Steve was about to fall, it would have been tough. It was like Steve like is about to fall, he's falling, it fades to black, and then it cuts of him falling, he's about to die, but then he gets swooped up, and then he gets caught, and then so someone's flying and he drops some back on the tower, and then they look at who caught him, and it's Eddie with the bat wings, and then Dustin's like Eddie, and then he's like a creature now, he's not Eddie anymore, he's like a monster, and then he would fly into like Dimension X, and then he would be a part of the final fight, and then that's when it would be like, oh, like Dustin versus Eddie, and then he's like, Eddie, like listen to me, and then it would be like a big moment showing like maybe Eddie has some humanity, and then maybe he helps them fight, but still it's a monster. But I don't know, like I said, like there's a lot of ways that I could have went.
If this was more like a mystical, magical kind of show,
maybe it would have like made sense. More into that, but still
like you could tell like this is a fantasy show, but they're trying to keep it grounded. Where like not everything is like D&D.
True.
You know,
But yeah, the last thing too is Vecna's origin in this last episode too. I feel like was kind of rushed. Yeah. It was kind of rushed.
They didn't show anything about the school play.
That either.
So it was like
the Duffer Brothers in interviews were saying like, oh, this episode it kind of will explain Vecna's power and explain everything, but it really didn't, because all we kind of learned is like, oh yeah, he was a kid and he found the rock, and then that's when he got connected to the mind flare and all that. But then it's like you have to watch the Stranger Things play, but then it's like, dang, like now you got to watch like this play that's like how much money in New York, and it's like, dang, you got to do that, and then like, oh, you have to connect it, but then also it doesn't explain like the whole thing with
they might turn the play into a show.
I mean, yeah, but
or a movie.
Still, though,
you know, that would be cool, because then it's like they can use that as a spinoff.
True.
Of like a prequel.
Yeah, but also it doesn't explain the fact that like in high school, Henry went to school with Joyce and like Hopper, and none of them remembered him. So that's another plot hole. Is like there's just so much stuff that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Overall, yeah,
9 out of 10 show.
9 out of 10 show.
A bad ending doesn't destroy years and years of work.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Like I don't think the ending's bad. It's just like
it's all right.
It's just okay. Yeah, it's just okay. That's it.
So like an okay ending doesn't destroy a whole series.
Yeah, exactly.
Versus a Game of Thrones was a bad bad ending that destroyed pretty much like all credibility for the show. Pretty much.
All right, guys, that is our review of Stranger Things season 5 and also the whole series. The episode okay. Entire series awesome. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and click the little bell to get notified on every video that we do. Where are we? Back. And we're back. You already know.
We're going to be dropping more videos. Stay tuned. And we're AOE, and we're out.
Peace.